Yuji right now is having one of the best moments in the entire series of Jujutsu Kaisen. And one of the pieces of dialogue from the Sukuna versus Yuji fight was Sukuna saying, right, he's from back then. And what did Kenjaku exactly create with Yuji? In my chapter review, I said he might be a form of a death painting similar to Choso, but just a little bit different. I'll start off with Kenjaku first, as I think the reveal of him being Yuji's mother is still crazy to think about. But we know ever since Kenjaku took Kaminori Toshi's body, the head of the clan, he was trying to reproduce a perfect combination of human and cursed hybrids, testing the limits of humanity per se. Finding a woman that could actually give birth to curses and producing at least 6 kids that are human and cursed hybrids. I feel like once he knew that the children he had the woman give birth to was not what he wanted, he said, fuck it, I'm gonna give birth to him myself, and was getting dogged by Yuji's dad, Jin Itadori, and gave birth to Itadori Yuji. But Yuji's Gramps was not happy about this because we can infer that Kaori couldn't produce children, it seems, so he made one with Kaori's body, but with Kenjaku instead. And the way Grandpa Itadori kind of reacted, he was mad that Jin went this far to have a kid because they both knew, I'm guessing, that Kaori was not the same person as he knew. Now, Grandpa Itadori even said, stop messing with that woman or you'll die. We know Kaori was a sorcerer back in the day and she had a cursed techniques. What are the odds of OG Itadori being a retired sorcerer from back in the day? Why was Jin so hung up on having a child he would do something morally wrong just to have one? We're not entirely sure, but there had to have been some type of method of why Jin was so desperate in having Yuji. We all remember back in chapter 1, OG Itadori was trying to tell Yuji about his parents, but Yuji didn't want to hear it. On the surface, you'd think a kid would want to know about his parents that he barely knows, but considering Yuji was around 16 at this time, he was probably over both of them already, and he only really loved his grandpa. That was all he needed at the time. But we can assume that Jin died not too long after Yuji's birth from Kenjaku, and OG Itadori got away with Yuji and kept him hidden from Kenjaku in case he came back, and wanted to let Itadori know at least what he looked like in case he ran into him on his journey. Now onto what Sukuna said. I've seen a couple people say Yuji could be a reincarnation, but looking at how reincarnation and a vessel are done, I think if it was a form of that, it would be a little bit different. I'll get into why I'm leaning more so towards the cursed womb aspect than the reincarnation after I give my opinion and ideas on what this whole reincarnation could be and look like. Now, I think what Kenjaku did as Yuji's mom, somehow Kenjaku gave Itadori the DNA of past people he's already taken over from his body swapping ability. I can't put a finger on exactly who exactly that would be, but we only know of potentially a Fujiwara ancestor and a Kamo clan head. So as to who would be the reincarnated vessel per se for Yuji, that's up in the air. We don't have too much on that. I was thinking maybe an ancestor of the Itadori family possibly that we don't know about. We would have to assume the person would be from the Han era because that's Sukuna's prime era where he was really active. Plus the fact that of all people, Kenjaku went directly to Kaori, wanted her body, and had no problem doing it with the Itadori family. It has a lot of red flags to me. Although I think the one plot hole is the appearance of Yuji. Itadori would look a little bit different than expected if he was reincarnated as someone else, and he looks exactly like his grandpa and his dad. Yuji being a more so mixture of different humans sounds legit considering how humanized Yuji is compared to everyone else. And I think it was added on in chapter 1 when his gramps told him to help people use the power that you have and help as many people as you can so you won't die alone. Part of me feels like Yuji carries that curse legit, and it kind of just coincides with how his character is right now. I think Yuji is a cursed womb death painting, or I guess a hybrid of it, because wombs evolve. Each cursed womb we see in some sort of evolution stage that takes place, from Dagon, Choso, and even Naoya. The one common trait among all of their evolutions was that they got stronger after having some sort of traumatic event or reaching the peak of their negative emotions, and while still having a strong control over their cursed energy. They reached their strongest state. Dagon got his actual cursed womb body after getting heavily damaged by Nobito and being incredibly mad and upset about the disrespect Nobito was giving towards the cursed family. Choso, trying to avenge his brothers while fighting his father, was obviously extremely emotional all throughout this fight, and after taking severe damage, Choso stood on his feet and stayed focused on Kenjaku while harnessing the cursed techniques of his younger brothers. Naoya being the most recent example, as while he was getting the beatdown of a lifetime from Maki and Daido, Now he forcefully evolved into his strongest state after having so much rage and questioning what's happening to him that he even launched a domain expansion and grew out of his curse wound body. Now you'd think Yuji would have had this already, considering what was happening in Shibuya because of Sukuna and the Mahito fight and the amount of deaths he's seen, but I think what's going on in the Coming Games right now and the eventual meetup with Kenjaku, or maybe even Sukuna telling Itadori who he is, it'll be that final push that Yuji awakens into his true evolved state with Sukuna's Terse technique and potentially some other physical buff that would stack on top of what he's already got right now, maybe even a durability buff. And I do think that some of the cursed energy from Sukuna's fingers over time, they kind of leaked into Yuji's actual body, and with Yuji being a hybrid human, he's able to store them, unlike someone like Megami, who's a regular sorcerer, regular human. I know what you're thinking. A peak human curse hybrid combination? That sounds like the king of curses himself. Kenjaku creating a quote-unquote counter to Sukuna wouldn't be out of the blue, considering the person Kenjaku is and the knowledge he holds. He wants to create something from his hands that truly pushes the limits of humanity. So with all that rage, anger, and sadness within Yuji would continue to keep fighting through his suffering, and whether he's a reincarnated vessel or the actual perfect curse wound that Kenjaku wants to create, it's time Yuji completes his evolution. Whether it be a curse technique or a completely different form in general, or even a reverse curse technique somehow. I just can't wait to see what Gege's cooking up. Leave a like and subscribe. I'll holler at y'all in the next one. Peace.